This has got to be the best redemption arc I've seen in football in a long time. You see, we found a talisman. Yes, that same David Strelec with his 5.9 rating. The worst player on the pitch in match day 1. He would almost single-handedly carry us this season. Football can be funny like that, right?
Once we stood among the giants, under floodlights shining bright, blue and white, hearts ignited, super Depor full of fight.
But the waves came crashing down, years of struggle lost and found, yet in our veins the fire remains. We will rise again. Volveremos, nunca caemos. El Depor sigue en mi corazón. Lucharemos, ganaremos. Super Depor campeón.
Last season, we proved we belonged in La Liga, finishing mid-table in 11th. This season, we aimed higher. European football was the dream, but we had no idea just how wild the ride would be. Now, I've told you a lot about our transfer plans, and surely you get the picture by now. We build for the future. But you must have questions about my approach, right? We've strengthened a lot, but the defense has been neglected. The thing is, up until now, the options weren't great. So with the renewed focus, I knew that had to change. We scored the 5th most goals last season, but we conceded far too many for my liking. So we kicked off our summer transfer window by doubling down on youth, signing 2 teenage centre-backs, Icelandic talent John Peterson and Senegalese prospect Pape Diouf for a combined 38,500. Pocket change in today's market, but big potential. Now, I know these two weren't ready for first team action, and I had no plans to rush the process, so we needed some ready-made starters as well. Enter Chilean Daniel Gonzalez, a rock at the back with fair ball-playing ability. He fits into our plans perfectly. We paid just 3 million for him, an absolute steal. Then came Loic Williams, a towering centre-back from Granada. Loic was born to a Spanish mother and a Congolese father, meaning he had dual citizenship and would potentially leave us for the AFCON if Congo qualified. So we needed some insurance. That's where Henrik Hegerheim comes in, a Viking by name and by club, or at least the one we bought him from. A solid centre-back that would be useful in the squad and perfectly capable of stepping in whenever we needed. Admittedly, we paid over the odds for him, perhaps $1 million too much, considering both Gonzalez and Williams were cheaper but better. Sometimes you get it wrong, but this I could live with. Now at the club, we also had Danny Barcia and Haruna Aliu, our starting pair from last season, along with long-serving Pablo Vasquez. Barcia had youth on his side and a fair bit of potential, but despite going pretty well last season, he would now have to reduce his playing time in favor of simply better players in the ones we just signed. He would eventually not be willing to do this, and so we shipped him off for a neat 2.9 million to Las Palmas. Aliu, on the other hand, did not complain at all, and so he would remain. Vasquez was in the last year of his contract, and despite attempts to get him out the door, we failed, and so he would be here to offer us an emergency option and see out the rest of that contract. Centre-back sorted. Then at right-back we had Valérie Deleyou. I have unwavering belief in his potential, but we needed someone for right now. Enter former Madrid player Vinicius. No, not that one. Vinicius Tobias. Rapid, great going forward, and just 22 years old. 3.6 million well spent. Now, for us to actually be better in defense, we would need to improve in defensive midfield as well. We pulled off a heist. Nigerian prodigy Daniel Daga, just 19, slotted right into our pivot. This kid was special. At the 2023 Under-20 World Cup, he was just 16, the second youngest player at the tournament, starting every game for the Flying Eagles. That was a time when Klopp's Liverpool and AC Milan were watching him, and somehow we got him for just 550,000. Literal theft. Things in the transfer market were going well, but before we could wrap it up, we had to let a few more go. Buldini wasn't happy because Strelec had now become a fixed starter ahead of him. With a 3 million offer on the table, I was happy to let him go. We did still have young Salvakas as backup. Then there was the issue of Halton Lecce. Remember those injuries? Yeah, he picked up one more at the end of the season, a broken hand. He was aging and injury prone, and so despite his past heroics, we bid him a thankful farewell. Then we let go of a player that I never introduced you to, and in doing that, I did a massive disservice to him. Nuke Mfulu was so solid for us over the past 2 seasons and so unproblematic that his story here just went untold. But now that Daga came in, Nuke would be seeing less minutes, and so despite me wanting to keep him for depth, he would want out, and so for once, I reluctantly agreed to let him go. The 625,000 to our annoying rivals, Elche. Now the saddest part of this whole deal was that they never used him all season long. Apologies, Nuke. But with that, on the whole, our core players were improving. The squad now had more depth, and tactically, we stuck to that 4-2-3-1 philosophy. We had more now than we did last time around, but could we finally crack the top 7 and get into Europe? The bookies didn't think so, giving us 250 to 1 odds and a predicted 12th place finish. Challenge accepted. Now, we don't do preseason well, do we? So yes, welcome to our annual tradition, getting battered in preseason so that the lads build character. Apparently, character comes from conceding 5 to Grasshoppers and 7 to Inter Milan. Who knew? Absolute madness. Fun for the neutrals, less fun for us, and unfortunately, that chaos bled into the start of our La Liga campaign. Now the fixture list makers really have it in for us. First game, Barcelona at home. Time to continue our cursed form against the big boys. And as predicted, we lost 3-1. With Barca scoring all 4 goals thanks to a Paul Kurbasi own goal. Everyone was poor, none more so than David Strelec. A 5.9 rating, incredible. I may as well have played our goalkeeping coach up front. And letting Boldini go may have actually been a mistake. Then, a few weeks later, Real Madrid rolled into town and humbled us 4-2. This time, Daniel Basti and Charlie Patino grabbed consolation goals, but again, we had zero hope against these big boys, and by the end of August, we had just 3 points from our first 4 games, and we were sitting nervously in 15th. Yep, not great, and definitely not part of the plan for this season. Sure, the fixture list wasn't kind, but this was ominous. To start September, we drew with Almeria 2-2, but then a turning point. We had finally beaten Elche, the 5th time of asking, a 2-0 win. But a turn in results is not what I was referring to. You see, David Strelec had found it tough at the start of the season. Besides that horrid performance against Barca, he hadn't opened his account until the Elche game. In fact, he hadn't scored since our 2-1 defeat at Sevilla in March, a whole 12-game run. But finally, the streak was broken, and boy, it was about time. In the next 5, we picked up 2 draws and a win. We moved on to 13th, yeah, not where we wanted to be, but importantly, Strelec had added 3 more to his tally. And then he grabbed 4 more in the next 3. We won against Sevilla and then Sociedad before this happened against Betis. Borja Iglesias opened the scoring for the visitors in just the 3rd minute before Strelec equalized. In the 66th, Vinicius Tobias gave us the lead, and surely this would be enough in a tight, scrappy affair. No. 89th minute, up pops Ez Abde, a late equalizer and 2 points thrown down the drain. Until Strelec brought the late show. 90 plus 3, 2 points won, our talisman was rearing his head. Incredibly, we had made this a habit, a 3rd consecutive 3-2 win against Betis. Not great for heart health, but a record that I'll take every day of the week. Happy days. But then, the winter curse struck. Again, this is a familiar story, isn't it? Every season around Christmas, we seem to go on holiday, or hibernation, or to sleep. Call it whatever you'd like, the results have been consistently problematic. This time, it started with an embarrassing Copa del Rey exit to Segunda side, Ibiza. A 1-0 disaster that sapped morale. I swear for 90 minutes, they played like they were still recovering from a 3-day festival. No energy, no focus, just pure morning after football. And the hangover continued. 5 defeats in our next 6 league games, including a 4-3 loss to Girona, a 3-2 defeat to Real Madrid, yeah sure, better than before, but still a loss, and a 4-2 slip-up against Almeria. A 1 win in this period? You'd be forgiven for thinking this was a joke. We demolished a full-strength Barcelona 3-0. After trying to get a result against the big 2 for so long, Of course we did it when it made absolutely no sense. Regardless, if we were cursed, we were at least halfway to breaking it now, and that had to be a positive omen. But yes, we were still underperforming in the league, at least in terms of my expectations. We had slipped to 14th, and despite 3 more Strelec goals in the next 5, we remained in 14th by the 8th of March. Sure, one of those goals gave us a second win of the season against Elche, but as annoying as they are, they were just a side quest. The most important target was getting into Europe this season, and with 9 games left, that was becoming a fading dream, and so we had to find our magic and fast. So next up, Athletic Bilbao at home. Bolstered by the Riazor atmosphere, we slammed in 4 goals, and it seemed like the lads were up for one big push at the end of the season. Then came Sevilla away, a tight affair, but we couldn't get the job done. Strelec faltered in both of those games, but thankfully, he took it to heart. Boom! A hat-trick versus Sociedad, we thrashed them 5-0, and we went 12th now, still in with a chance. Then came Betis, 56th minute, and Strelec scores a winner. Not our usual 3-2, but this 2-1 was perfect. Then 2 more from Strelec in a 4-0 win versus Vallecano. Now elsewhere in Spain, our rivals for that 7th spot were faltering. Valencia, who had looked strong all season, were beginning to stumble. In March, they somehow pulled off a dramatic 2-1 win over Barca after a draw with Real Madrid, but then Elche did us a favor, and Atletico Madrid and Girona were even better a month later. Villarreal, on the other hand, were crumbling. After some wonderful form in March, they capitulated in April and picked up just 2 points from their next 5, seeing them drop from 5th to 8th. And so with 2 games left in the season, the door was open. We just had to step through it, and so it all came down to this. The log as tight as ever. 6 points to play for. Match week 37. Valencia impress as 4-1 victors away at Bilbao. Villarreal, on the other hand, lose for the 3rd straight game, this time to Real Madrid, effectively ruling themselves out of European contention. We take on Tenerife in a must-win encounter, so of course, they put us 1-0 down in the first minute. That's just how things work here. Now we had come to fight though, and Go got us level in just the 10th minute. Tenerife though had to win to stay alive in La Liga, and so they threw everything at us. 20th minute and they're back ahead. Then in the 25th minute, that man Strelec rose again and scores our level. We go into the half 2-2. Surely we couldn't come this close and then throw it all away. Surely someone had to step up.
Oh, how! From Abuja to Acuna, this one will be remembered. Just 90 years old with the world at his feet. Today, they are at his mercy. The kid with a dream keeps every dream alive. Daniel Daga, take a bow.
The result meant that now it would come down to the last game week. Valencia sat in 7th with 56 points. We won 54. If they lost and we won, we would finish 7th. If they drew, then the La Liga rules come into play. And unlike many leagues in the world, La Liga sorts teams level on points, firstly by the results between them during the course of the season. But thankfully for us, an away draw in October last year and a home draw in March this year meant that we could rely on our goal difference. And that goal difference as it stood was one better than Valencia. Now on the other hand, a win for them and the season would be a failure. And so it was pretty simple. Everything was on the line. But thankfully for us, we had a tiny bit of an advantage. They played that final game of their season a day before us. They were home to Sevilla, and so we had some hope. Sat in 6th, Sevilla were trying to ensure that they stayed in the Europa League places. A loss to Valencia would see them slip down to 7th and mean they would be shipped off to the Conference League. They had something to fight for, and so that made them just a little bit more reliable. If Valencia scored before Sevilla here, we would surely be sent over the edge, and so we watched on with bated breath. Every Valencia shot was met with an air of dread, while every Sevilla counterpunch brought nervous excitation. With so much resting on it, this was torture. Emotional damage, and the minutes ticked by as slowly as ever. Nails were bitten, fingers were crossed, but by the 94th minute, our prayers were answered. Phew. Valencia had played a miserable 0-0 draw with Sevilla, where they had 4 shots on target, but couldn't score. And so the subtle advantage paid off. We knew exactly what we needed to do on the final day of the season, and that was to win, a task that would be easier said than done. For our final game of the season, we took on Mallorca. Now, they were always going to try their level best. They were battling for survival, fighting for their lives. They started the day in 17th, 3 points ahead of Elche. But Elche had beaten them in the head-to-head, meaning that if they lost and Elche won, they'd be relegated. And so we went into it knowing that this was going to be a massive task. Mallorca came at us early, shot after shot. They had really come to play ball. But like it has been all season, one man had a plan of his own. David Strelec in the 24th minute gave us the lead. Mallorca though had come to ruin our dreams, and so just 2 minutes later, Vedat Muriqi equalized. Then just 8 minutes later, Strelec goes again. No matter what happened today, David Strelec would not die wondering. And so as it stood at half-time, we would finish 7th, and Mallorca was still safe. Happy days for both teams. You see, Mallorca weren't content though. They knew that if Elche took the lead in their game, they would drop down into the relegation places. And so at the start of the second half, they pushed and pushed again. And then they equalized. Now, the pressure was all on us. And we didn't have the luxury of time as the clock ticked down. We had done enough to drag this to the last day, but with Mallorca doing so much, it felt like we would fall short at the final hurdle. But we continued to probe. And of course, we had our talisman. 61st minute, David Strelec for the 3rd time in the game gives us the lead. Surely the hat-trick would be enough to keep them from coming back. Mallorca fans were noticeably quieter. They were now just 2 points clear of the drop and had opened the door to Elche. 3 minutes later, Elche take the lead against Rayo Vallecano, pushing them into 17th and Mallorca into the relegation zone. A hush goes across the Riazor. Mallorca fans are devastated, and our fans feel their pain, having suffered our own strife in the recent past. The message spreads to the players almost immediately, and unfortunately for us, that spurs them on yet again. Just 1 minute later, Mallorca equalized for the 3rd time. The away end explodes now that all too familiar feeling sinks our home fans. We came so far and we fought so hard. The football gods were always going to be cruel to someone today, but we never imagined that it would be us. Yeah, sure, as it stood, Elche would go down, but that meant nothing if we missed our targets as well. And so we probed. Effort after effort, no point. Until the 79th minute, Vinicius Tobias drives into the box and his attempted cutback deflected. They score an own goal. Finally we had the lead again. Is this finally the knockout blow? Knowing that Elche was still in the league, Mallorca came back at us. They'd slipped up before, but could they come back for a 4th time in the game? They pushed and probed, and pushed and probed again. We sweated, but stayed alive, and it seemed like we would come unstuck. But then, in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, from their goal kick, we pushed forward one last time. The hours spent pressing in training finally paid off. Strelec, the man who carried us all season, latched onto the ball. The keeper came out, hoping to atone for his error in giving away the ball in the first place. But the shot, it was perfect. 5-3, game over, we did it. 7th place, 57 points, more goals scored than Valencia by a country mile, and yet it had gone right down to the wire. If Strelec hadn't turned into a superhero, if Valencia just scored a single goal against Sevilla, or if Mallorca had actually defended properly, we could have been watching from the sidelines. But we weren't. You see, the man that started with a horrible show at Barcelona had now bagged 29 goals in the league. He was level at the top with Kylian Mbappe and had outperformed his XG by almost 10. A goal machine, Our talisman, David Strelec, had brought it full circle. He had drove us back to Europe for the first time in years. We could start to dream again. David Strelec allowed us to do that. But as much as the season was about his heroics, there was a little more to the story. You see, behind the scenes there were hidden orchestrators pulling the strings. Go Young-jun and Soriano were creative monsters, racking up 13 assists each. Even Charlie Patino popped up with 9. And there were goals from elsewhere too. Go got 9, Vinicius Tobias and Yosifov both popped up with 7, and even Daniel Gonzalez chipped in with 6. The project was moving forward, but despite us improving our defense, we conceded 64 goals, only 3 less than last season. Room for improvement. Of course, Real Madrid made a mockery of the league, going undefeated with 106 points and 117 goals. But we weren't competing with them, at least not yet. For now, Deportivo La Coruna was back in Europe. Yes, it wasn't the Champions League yet, but we could start to remember those big nights, like Milan in 04. The next step, we try to go as far as we can in our European campaign, with new challenges, bigger dreams, and hopefully fewer mid-season meltdowns. But success brings problems. And our talisman that we hope to build around for next season, well, he's got sharks circling.
Like Bebeto's touch, Valeron's spark, a raging fire.